I think the willingness that indie developers have to take chances is what really stands out about some of the games we're seeing coming out all over the world. Publisher Playism has been a significant player in this space, making it easy for people like me to discover these projects and play genuinely unique titles. This is what brought me to MillionDepth, a 2D adventure that delves into the depths of the earth, employing clever mechanics to keep players invested. And whether you're here for the adventure, mystery, or maybe perhaps both, this is one unassuming indie experience that I had no problem dumping hours into, if only to see where the tunnels lead next. MillionDepth sets up a future where humanity couldn't live on Earth's surface. This event led to the richest humans getting a ride into space, while those left are forced to burrow into the Earth for survival. I think the Steam page might reveal a little too much about the setup and the rules of this reality, given that it does kinda spoil some of the early reveals. But the themes of this game dip into science fiction and reveal some emotionally charged narrative paths for the characters. We then meet Moma in space after she lost contact with someone from Earth. Through logs, we can catch up with the relationship before Moma decides to just go to Earth and find this person herself. The early hours of the game are that of a bit of confusion. Players are almost purposely left out of any exposition or discovery, as early scenes throw sci-fi terms at you, and maybe there's a scene of a device killing someone before you learn that the humans left all worship someone known as Lady Bay. Okay, on that note, things move pretty quickly in the underground because that's all in the first 10 minutes. But this hazy way of storytelling feels intentional once you finish your first descent. As players progress to the Earth's core, they'll trigger story scenes based on the route that they take. However, actions taken during the descent alter the scenes and the ending. These aren't tough choices to make, and your first few runs can be completely random if you want, but later runs will likely need to be planned out if you're trying to complete the game's timeline. There's also a handy feature that lets you actually jump to specific nodes on that timeline for cleanup once you've unlocked a few other routes. This is mainly needed once you hit the final hours of the game, which took me about 20 hours to finish. Those who make it this far are in for a fairly emotional narrative that mirrors the depth of the journey as you wish for a different timeline. When it comes to gameplay, things get a little more unique. Just from a look at this game, you've likely assumed that it's probably a roguelike based on abilities gained through choices, but while there are some random abilities you gain, I want to stress that this isn't a roguelike. It's a strategy RPG. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that either, but some floors will contain monsters which introduce us to Moma's weapon, the Biotope Jammer. When you enter battle, the screen transitions into battle mode. With the right stick, you control the jammer and the left controls Moma. By hitting enemies with the jammer, you can cause some pretty high damage. Further, Moma will kick enemies that she comes in contact with. Now here's another interesting system here. If you don't move, time freezes, and if Moma moves, the jammer actually loses power. This creates some interesting moments of gameplay that I can't say I've ever experienced before. In execution, the combat system works great. The strategy of lining up combos and using the recoil from hitting an enemy with the jammer into more enemies is pretty fun. Further strategy is found in making sure Moma avoids damage. Now, I will say that on some runs, depending on the items that you obtain, can oversimplify the combat, especially with the stacked effects of the various tools you acquire. Further, jammer customization can easily give you the upper hand in every encounter if you wanted to. So while the battle system is interesting, I found the difficulty is trivialized the more you continue. To fix this, I would guess that more time would be needed to put into balancing the power of the random cards you acquire, because even with the negative effects, they're far too generous. Still, there's difficulty in the settings menu to fine-tune your routes. The Jammer's customization option takes you into another in-game system where you use collected materials from fights to build your weapon. Each time you clear a route, you unlock more blueprints to make the Jammer even stronger, eventually adding some elemental damage to some hits. It's a pretty interesting system that evolves over time, albeit a little confusing. But even through that, I found the act of discovering new block combinations to be a nice touch on the whole system. As you descend, you'll also encounter some shops. The shop system doesn't actually require money. Instead, you'll have to negotiate with the shopkeeper to acquire new items. Honestly, it might be smarter to just wait a few runs before investing too much into the system, as it's not entirely straightforward your first time through, and making poor negotiations could ruin some runs. However, once you understand the block system and the use cases of items, it becomes a bit easier to follow. My thoughts this far in the review is that MillionDepth is a learn-on-the-go type of game, but I still had fun with it. The visuals and audio design are straightforward, while the character designs are visually appealing. Still, the environments can sometimes feel repetitive. Fortunately, there are special floors featuring events that add variety to the surroundings. The soundtrack is decent, featuring ambient tracks that effectively set the mood for each floor that you visit. From beginning to end, MillionDepth is a game about discovery. Its unconventional approach to the action strategy genre reveals creative blends of systems that I haven't actually experienced before. While it takes a few runs to understand fully, I found enjoyment in the chaos and discovery. The emotional narrative creeps up from the depths of Earth to grab hold of any player willing to take that leap, and I'm glad that I did. Noisy Pixel is giving MillionDepth a 7.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.